Welcome to Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern science and spiritual evolution gets real. I'm Heather, an energy healer, channel, and spiritual coach with Divine Ascension Company. Each week, we're diving deep into the mysteries of human consciousness, spiritual awakening, and the profound transformation happening within us and around us. But here's the thing. We're not doing this with our heads in the clouds. We're bringing neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, and cutting-edge research to the table alongside meditation, energy work, and timeless spiritual teachings. Because the truth is, the ascension of humanity isn't some far-off cosmic event. It's happening right now in the choices we make, the awareness we cultivate, and the healing we do within ourselves. Whether you're curious about how mindfulness literally rewires your brain, why shadow work is backed by depth psychology, or what coherence between your heart and mind actually means scientifically, you're in the right place. We'll explore practices like breathwork, meditation, and emotional alchemy, not as abstract concepts, but as tangible tools grounded in both spiritual wisdom and scientific understanding. And here's where it gets even better. In our bonus episodes, you'll hear from real people sharing real stories. These are the warriors, the healers, the everyday seekers who've walked through their own darkness and found their light. They'll share their breakthroughs, their struggles, and the resources that actually helped them along the way. Because personal growth isn't a solo journey, and you deserve to know you're not alone. So whether you're just beginning to question the nature of reality, or you're deep in your spiritual practice, this podcast is your companion on the path. It's time to expand, to awaken, and to rise together. Let's begin. Welcome to the first special bonus episode of Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity. I'm Heather, your host, and I want to share my sincere, heartfelt gratitude for all who are listening today. So hello and welcome to my podcast. These bonus episodes are a little different from our regular shows. Instead of me teaching about spiritual concepts or breaking down the science of consciousness, these episodes are about something even more powerful. Real people sharing real stories. Stories of awakening, of transformation, of hope. Stories of what happens when you finally say yes to your spiritual path, even when it's terrifying. Even when everyone thinks you're crazy. Even when you don't know what comes next. Because here's the truth. Spiritual awakening isn't pretty. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It breaks you open in ways you never expected. But it's also beautiful and profound and absolutely worth it. Today we have a very special guest. She's got a very unique story. She's got a lot of amazing things going on. Her name is Sarah. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oof, where to begin? My name is Sarah Elkins, and I am a Reiki master, a theta healing practitioner. I'm a published author. I do channeling and transformative speaking and events. I do a little bit of everything. I do love for a living. Like, I just love people for a living, and it's a fusion union of a little bit of everything, just live in the moment, whatever's needed, all in support for embodiment, empowerment, and sharing testimony and miracles, and just uplifting people and reminding people that we can, kind of quote unquote, embrace the insanity of humanity and have fun at the same time doing it.
That's amazing. So how did you kind of get to that point?
It's been a journey. If I start back, even when I was younger, I was different, but I didn't really realize how different I was until I had my deeper awakening later on in life. And that brought me to realize in childhood, I had written a prophetic story about this ascension process and the shift in consciousness that's happening. And then also a painting that I did at the age of 15 that I had no idea at the time was also prophetic to the shift in consciousness. And it came back to me in 2019 before COVID started. And it triggered this whole chain of events focusing on ascension and what's coming. But really was a series of what I call initiations through life. It's I'm 41 now, going on 42, and I've been overcoming so many obstacles and adversities the whole way. But I realized how much that was all for this purpose of transmuting that and preparation for what's happening and elevating emotions, regulating emotions, those types of things. And when I got into Reiki and theta healing, it just catapulted that. And I knew, like, this is my purpose that I need to focus and go towards. And that just kept evolving and refining and redefining along the way.
Awesome. So what you listed a bunch of stuff that you do. What's your favorite and why?
Ooh, it's so hard to pick a favorite because I'm such a creative, expressive person, just a creative being of every form of creation. And I kind of do it at the same time. Like I'll be like singing and dancing and moving energy, and like a channeled message will come through and then I'll write it down. So I think my favorite elements is like the singing and the sound toning and the spoken word of sharing the messages and the live channeling that comes through. I do a kind of combination of all those things at the same time with sound healing through voice, music, singing, dancing, all those kinds of things.
Hmm. So you also mentioned your deeper awakening, which implies that there was a soft awakening, if you will. Is there anything that you would like to share about either of those experiences for people? Because a lot of people I'm finding that they're going through an awakening, but they don't understand what that is, what that looks like, what that means. So I'm trying
Mm.
to kind of like help give some examples as to, what that looks like for some people and to maybe give them a better idea of what's happening.
Yes, definitely. For me, it started towards the end of my marriage, and I started realizing life wasn't really aligning with me. The partnership wasn't aligning with me. And a friend had mentioned to me the law of attraction, The Secret. And as soon as I saw it first as the documentary movie, and then later read the book as well, and I was like, well, yes, this is how I've been feeling my whole life, but I've kind of gotten out of touch with that. And this was before I got into Reiki, and that kind of started the first awakening of my old life completely just falling away. And at first it felt like, what am I doing wrong? Everything's falling apart. What's happening? It's going into that victimhood at first. And then I realized later on, this is happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through that process of kind of going back to myself and later on discovering terms like being an empath or a star seed. And it triggered something in me again. And I booked a Reiki session. And after experiencing it and feeling it for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been feeling and sensing my whole life without realizing it. And that started activating like visions and even like ears ringing. And sometimes you feel like your body's just exhausted. Sometimes I would get kind of like almost like a convulsion, kind of like an electric buzz where I would like jump through my body. I would physically be moving, and sound tones so strong that I would feel it coming into my ear as if the wind had come into my ear. And it can look like your life falling apart, but really that's to redirect you, because what's not meant for you will fall away. And it's the letting go of that and understanding why it's happening. And like I said earlier, embracing the insanity of humanity, it's understanding the full spectrum and why it exists. Because if we didn't have happy or sad or everything in between, how would we know what even happiness is?
Mm-hmm.
And so I see it as we come into this veil of forgetfulness, and then we start to remember again. And it's just this continual refining process of redirecting and self mastery and being in that higher frequency energy of, having that intuition that feels so subtle, like a whisper that often people will ignore. But when you start to listen to that, life becomes interactive. A lot of people start to see signs and synchronicities and things like that. And it's just so many combinations of different things. And often I was like in bed for a month or more at a time where I could barely do anything else but just rest, because after so many years of going through traumatic events, I had to redefine what those events meant. And it was with embracing it and giving it a purpose. I call it shifting wounds to wisdom, and that pain into purpose and your power. A lot of us that are meant for anchoring these higher codes and going through this ascension is feeling those things, as people say, feeling it to heal it. And those initiations serve as a purpose, and not only for ourselves individually, it goes on to different levels to like your past lifetimes, future lifetimes, genetics, epigenetics, your ancestry, this lifetime, your soul purpose. There's so many levels and layers, and it can sound complex, but that's kind of the paradox. Is it's much more simple, but it sounds like a lot, and it can feel like a lot. But once you get that empowerment to go, my peace and my centeredness is sacred, and I won't allow anything or anyone outside of me to control my internal state. That could be a lot to process as these codes are coming in and the energies are so high. So it takes a lot of grounding and resting. And it's definitely can be an exhausting process. And I like to play with words and say, I don't do exhaustion. I'm in rejuvenation. So if somebody asks me, how are you feeling? I won't say I'm tired. I'll say I'm rejuvenating.
Yeah. And that's important. Like, the words that you use is important, especially when you consider the law of attraction and like creating your own reality. So you don't want to use those words, because if you say you're tired, then you're going to be tired. But if you say you're rejuvenating, then it puts a different perspective on the feeling. That's makes it gives it a positive shift, right?
Definitely. That's the alchemy part of it. Definitely.
And you said made an important point earlier that I want to go back to about how everything felt like it was falling apart, because I feel like this is really important for people, because I understand, I know this is how it was for me as well. But when it feels like you're like, okay, I want to get a new car, and then you wreck your car. There, or you're like, I really don't like my job and I want to start a new career, and then you get fired from your job or something like that. And so when you set the intention for something better or something new or something more aligned with your path, right? The old stuff has to fall away somehow. So it feels like your life is falling apart, but really the universe is creating the pathway for clearing out the old to make room for the new. And I think this is important not only on a personal level to understand, but also like if you look at the things that are happening in the world right now, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's the apocalypse, it's the end of the world, like all these negative, bad things are happening. And I keep trying to tell people, like, this is the physical manifestation, the physical realm's way of clearing out the old to make room for the new. And I used in one of my Facebook posts, I used the analogy. Do you remember the movie Fantasia?
Yes.
The very last story was about the devil and how he came out to play at night, and he had all his little demons and everything dancing and going, and then you see the sun come out, and as the sun is coming across the horizon, you see the demons like thrashing wildly, and they slowly start to disappear as the sun makes itself brighter and brighter. I was like, this is the point that we're at. The demons, if that's what you want to call them, because that's the visualization we're using. I wouldn't personally use that word, but for the context of this analogy, they are throwing out their last efforts. They are doing what they can, but ultimately the light that we are holding as light workers, that we are anchoring through the energies that are coming in, are that sun that is creating the light that's going to clear all of that out. And we just have to kind of ride through it and understand and hope and know that at the end of that, things are going to be so much better.
Definitely, yes. And it's like, we can't use logic through this process. And it's where I like, again, the wordplay with like, I'm happily delusional, because if you break down that word, delusional, illusion. If you're getting out of that illusion, it can seem like you're delusional and your movement might make no sense to anyone else, but it's trusting that inner knowing and understanding no matter what's happening, it's happening for us always. And the very belief in that is what helps create that, because even the inner thoughts shape just the same as words do. It all carries frequency, which then starts to shape matter. And then our heart and what we're feeling about that magnetically attracts it to us, because the outer world is waiting for us to give it our frequency, like a pinging back and forth. You know, we send it out, it responds back to us, where often we think it's the other way around. But it's trusting that intuition and knowing how not to look outside of ourselves, but really trust within ourselves of our inner knowing, and allowing ourselves to follow that. Even sometimes it may seem like, well, I followed my intuition and something wrong happened. But sometimes the soul can have a sneaky way of playing a trick on you to make you do something that you might not do if you knew going into it. So sometimes it can seem like that. But it often will make no sense. For example, once I was leaving a very traumatic, emotional, abusive relationship, narcissistic kind of dynamic. I don't like these titles, but it gives people an understanding of the situation. I knew I had to get away, and I had been trying to save money to get away without him knowing, pre-planning the whole thing. And my opportunity came. I had just enough money to rent a U-Haul truck and a storage unit to put my stuff in, and a one-night stay. I didn't have my vehicle with me at the time. And so it made no sense to leave. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I didn't need to know. There was a trusting in the unknown. Isn't unknown if you trust your soul's higher plan, the divine higher plan, trusting in that and creating that reality. Something will always work out. And it turned into this just amazing story of, I finally got the truck loaded. I went to go leave. And the first miracle that happened, I had the keys out of the ignition, and the radio had not been playing when I was driving the truck. The door had been opened. You know, sometimes the music will play until you open the door and you get out. But I hadn't even been listening to it, right? So I'm sitting in a truck about to pull away. I'm gathering myself, and I hadn't even really put the key in the ignition yet. And the radio starts playing this country song. I don't remember the name of it, but it was saying, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. No more monkey on your back. And it was just like this wink of divine, like, we got you. It's going to be okay. Yeah. And so I took off, and I was heading from southern Arizona to northern Arizona, about 4-hour drive. I get an hour away, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to return this U-Haul tomorrow. And after this hotel stay, I have no car. I have nowhere to stay, and I don't have any other money. What am I going to do? But again, it just was so supported, and I felt it so strong. So I did it anyways. So I was an hour away from my destination, and I saw a friend on Facebook mention they were traveling through the area if anybody wanted to meet up. And I was like, well, I have nothing else to do. So I met up with him, and he turned out he was car camping. And he's like, I got tents, I got my car, we can do car camping. You just hang out with me in the meantime while you're figuring it out. So I went from having no plan with no car and nowhere to go to at least being able to go on this car camping adventure around Sedona. And it turned out, as that continued, right as I needed something, a donation would come in for the sessions. I was doing strictly donation based at that point to stay in integrity with how I felt in those moments. And as soon as I would need a meal, right, what I would need would come in. And even though I wasn't having more than enough, I knew my needs were being met. And trusting that unknown showed me how much more I could trust it. And as I kept following that, just more synchronicities happened. Eventually, I was able to get back to where my car was and restart life again. But again, it's like those steps may look like it made no sense to anyone else, but I know, and Source, God, Creator, it knows exactly why all those things happened. And now I have a new understanding and relationship, and I'm equally happy for every down moment as every up moment. And like you say, those those demons, that we think we're around, or people can think, people that are going through trauma, like being narcissists themselves. I thank that person for showing me the depth of my compassion, the strength of my character, the resilience and ability within me, how protected I was. Moments where the fighting would get so bad, I would start speaking and singing light language, and he would flee the house and just circle screaming profanities for hours.
Wow.
But then after, like, it calmed, and I just knew I would be okay. So it's just these moments of even knowing why I was going through that it's not necessarily like demons. I don't think of it that way. It's really our own thought form creation, because we have source consciousness, and what we give our thoughts to gives it life. That's why there's so much programming in existence to shift our focus. But when you're in that process of trusting yourself and not attaching to all those things, it speeds up the process of aligning you to be in a frequency to receive that support that is always there for us. And my guides show it to me, this process that we're in right now, like you're mentioning, we're seeing it, right? They show me this fish tank where you think of cleaning out a fish tank, you're stirring up the gravel and all the ick, all the, shit, all that's coming up. And the fish are like, ooh, we're swimming in it. But then it comes up to come out. So then it's cleansed, and then the tank is refreshed. And that's kind of the process that we're coming to right now. And one quick thing to add, I know there's a lot going on with this group 7 thing, and I saw your post the other day about that. And I've been receiving messages about that, and this whole process of ascension that we're going through. It's like, to me, what I've been getting is that we think that we're in this process of going into the 6th sun. But what I'm getting is that we're already, the process is picking up speed. Like, it's already done. If you think of it like, ooh, light or dark, like, no, it's already won. Everyone's playing their role. You can't have an ascension without having the descension. You can't realize you're awakening without something showing you what the other is. And when you release attachment to that and it neutralizes it, it's just been speeding up that process. And we're moving into the 7th cycle. And there's these soul monad groups. And if you think of the 7 rays of existence, of creation, even it goes back to like Cometics and things that like the Hermetics taught, the original, not what got changed later. This process we're going through is moving us into this 7th sun, where the embodiment stage is there. The 6th sun was like the awakening, the returning to the heart. And then now we start to live it and embody it and experience it. I feel some point between now and 2026, part of what was in my prophetic painting is that this cycle of the sun is going to activate a higher consciousness very rapidly for this shift. And there's, like Dolores Cannon says, there's many waves and stages that have been happening, but I see it as it's already done. And now this reality is shaping to that. And we're moving into this redoing life in a more aligned, centered way. And those people that are here to make that change, it's not by speaking or certifying and things like that. It's more so in embodying it. Like sharing the message can be great. Studying, getting certified can be great. But the ones that are actually out there doing it, going through it, you haven't just studied it, you've lived it, you've integrated it, and that clears it from the earth. It clears it from our individual lives. It makes the field and the magnetic field of earth lighter again to reach this higher state of consciousness that we're moving to. So the whole process I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I've also seen that or heard or whatever. Like, we all know that. Well, I would like to reiterate the fact that when you say I see, it doesn't mean with your visual eyes, but I'm seeing that the light has already won. Yes, and I keep trying to tell people that. I'm like, we've already won, but it takes, because of transitioning from 3D to 4D consciousness, the manifestation is not as quick as it will be later, but it is speeding up, but the light has already won, but now we have to wait for the physical world, the things to catch up that we see outside of ourselves, because it starts within, right? But it takes a while for it to show in life, right? For the collective. So it has already won, but now we're starting to slowly see the results of that. And even though it looks like we're going through a period of darkness, like I said earlier, we're actually just finishing that up so that all of the things that we've been holding, the light, the 5D consciousness, the unity consciousness, the faster manifestations, the compassion, the unconditional love, that we have gone through all of those things and are anchoring in, is now going to start manifesting. And a lot of people talk about the solar flash, they talk about the event, they talk about whatever. And Bashar has, if you don't know who that is, he's Daryl Anka. He channels Bashar, who's an extraterrestrial. And he keeps talking about 2027 and open contact and all the things. But I have seen that. I think the solar flash, if you want to call it that, it's not going to be what we think it's going to be. I have a feeling there's going to be something very important related to that in the spring of 2026. And things are going to filter after that to, yes, maybe open contact for everyone might happen in 2027. But there's a chance that individual contact could happen before that. You just have to be at the right frequency, right? But I think, there's rumors of the QFS, the new financial system, which I think is going to happen after this government shutdown is over at the end of the year. 2026 is going to hold, I keep seeing so many surprises, so many things, good things are going to be coming, and people, I just want them to not focus on the things that are happening at this moment and not get too involved in the fear and the separation, and to just keep hopeful for all the good things that are coming. Because like I said, we're just clearing all of, as you said, the shit out so that we can make room for these amazing clear waters, these amazing things that we have worked so hard for. We have suffered for so long that now, as you said earlier about the ascension and the descension, right? How can you ascend if you don't have anything to ascend from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sorry, I went off on a little tangent there, but
no, I love it. Yes, it makes so much sense. And going back to what you were saying about the process, I see it like the ocean. Like everyone is going to have their timing of when it's happening for them. And it's just like in the ocean, if you're deep diving and you're going deep diving with someone and you go to the depths of the bottom, the pressure is different there. There's more darkness, and you can't just jet up quickly from the bottom to the top. You got to clear your ears in the process. And you can't clear somebody else's ears for them. So you can't be yanking them up to go with you at the same time either. So everyone is ascending up in their own timing in that process. And it's like, you can't shatter somebody's reality too soon. It has to take time to integrate into this realm to hold that balance. And the ones that are holding the light, that's so much stronger than the frequency of any fear. That is more powerful. And when you stand in that, it just amplifies that. And, I do also receive messages around something like a solar flash. Even in my painting, there's this shift. And I'll be sharing this online soon, and I'll send some links where people can see it. But there's this movement of one plane of existence to the other. And then there's the veil that we go through. And right at that cross point, there's this thing that looks like the sun and a clock where time is shifting. And I think the way that we're experiencing time, and when that shift happens, I think the flash, it's already energetically happened. But I do think there's some kind of solar event that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen the way people think, oh, we're just going to instantly open our eyes and everything's just going to be transformed. I'm open in that, but right. I think there's going to be integration stages. But absolutely. I have received messaging around how we're also moving through this photonic light, this gamma ray energy that we haven't been exposed to before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to speed up the process, because I've seen in my research on these things very deeply. There's this quantum physics study where these scientists looked at these embryonic cells. They exposed them to this gamma ray photonic light. And within 48 hours, it had shifted, evolved to a different species. Like there was changes in it. And I think that a lot of our dormant abilities in our DNA are going to be activated. The messaging that I'm getting is about shifting from carbon-based beings to crystalline silicon-based beings.
Yep, absolutely.
And just that consciousness and our ability, time, like our youth and vitality chromosomes, like even like reverse aging and aging slow. Like I don't think we need like a med bed to do these things. We're organically, divinely designed, so much more capable. And when we focus and believe on just that, that makes the change. That's the impact. And it's good to plant seeds and support people, but the focus, like you're saying, that's very important, what we're focusing on right now, especially because I agree. The rest of this year, moving into 2026, is going to be, I think, the most fascinating ever. And to trust knowing that this lifetime in general, in our lifetime, I'm absolutely certain within myself, from what I've experienced, researched, and channeled, that this is going to be the most amazing lifetime of any lifetime. To imagine something so new and different, that's a new thing being done in creation that hasn't been being done before, that we're getting to experience, which is ascending, but staying individuated in our own vessels, evolving in that process to reach this higher state and ascend with the planet and the collective at the same time. And that's a beautiful new thing that's going to be done, where we'll see new colors, hear more spectrums, feel new emotions. It's just so much magic that's ahead of us. And once you go through so many miracles of things that have been so unexplainable, that if I didn't have physical evidence that I've been collecting along the journey, I would probably thought myself crazy. Like I see how it can sound, but I know what I know by experience. And it's just too many synchronicities, too many actual facts and physical items showing up along my journey that just show that this is happening in our lifetime. We will get to experience it, and it's going to be incredible. And I think it'll be a continual process, but I think we'll see a rapid shift, because so much has been being done in the background that people aren't realizing, because a lot are in that kind of fear state, being distracted, that a lot of us have been working on these things and wanting to build community and coming together. Like there's so many more of us that I want to encourage us to show ourselves, be ourselves, own your truth. When you're doing it without being in persuasion or opposing to what somebody else thinks or feels, and you're just being yourself, that, yes, that may trigger people, but even that too is love and purposeful, remaining in your grace and compassion, being embodied. And when all these things start happening, that's what I recently posted is, if we once thought to be woo-woo would be more like woohoo, like this is amazing, fun, beautiful. Like then I'll be like, okay, they'll be seeking us to represent, that first stage of people that may reach that state sooner, like you're saying, to contact other dimensional beings, and for me, I don't even know if I think of it like aliens. I think of it more of other aspects and dimensions of ourselves and other layers of existence that we'll be able to tune into. For me, it's divine beings that we're connecting to. And however we're thinking, feeling, and believing to connect and interact with that, it'll interact with us that way to be able to have that conversation that resonates and feels good and safe with us. I think being able to contact our loved ones, like through the realms, more people being able to be kind of like psychic and telepathic. Like there's so much with all of this that is unfolding. A lot of us experiencing it already, hence the ears ringing, sometimes blurred vision, like the rods and cones in our eyes are being updated to see these new spectrums, to hear new sounds, to be more telepathic. And there's been days I've just had the most ridiculous pain in the back of my head where that center is, just like dolphin and whales communicate like sonar. It'll be something similar to that, but you're sending with like thought feeling. It'll be the thought feeling emotion, which is like felt and communicated, which is why I think light language is coming up so much, because it bypasses the hidden spell work and the intention and the words that have been altered and how we use them, and then our beliefs around it, like singing and sound toning and music. It's global, it speaks to our human nature without words that can bypass and be received as love. And when you're sharing and embodying from that truth and not being opposed to where somebody else is yet, it's what I call bypassing the spiritual immune system. It's received with love. And I mean, I've been traveling all over the US. I've gone to many different countries, Greece and Egypt, Belize, and all over. And I've been able to speak this truth by just being me and sharing my experience, and it being well received, no matter what religion, belief, culture. It was well received. Maybe there's some people think, oh, she's a little out there, but I don't mind. I'm not responsible for what other people think. So I know my truth, and that's more than enough for me. So just keep owning our truth and anchoring in and out. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said about these things that are happening that have never happened before. Like if you check out my YouTube channel, I have a couple channeled messages from 3i Atlas, which is a really big thing that's happening right now. I got to connect with one of the crew members, and they were explaining about how they are helping, because you and I both have Lyran heritage, and it's Lyran energy that's being sent, which is all courage and standing in your truth, like you said, and all the things, and the photonic energy that you were talking about, which is great to hear a scientific study about that, because I have a scientific mind. I have a psych background. So I like to intertwine both. And I love the fact that people are starting to explore those things. But I also recently discovered and found out, got a message that not only, because everyone's like, oh, the ascension of the earth is so important. Like there's so many UFOs or whatever you want to call them around the planet that we can't see. All eyes are on us. They're all sitting there for decades now, watching with their popcorn, like waiting to see what happens, because this is so important, so important, so important. And the things that we're doing here, because we're all one, we're all connected. Look up quantum entanglement, right? So the things that are happening here are rippling out through the cosmos. There have been other beings, other planets that have gone through an ascension process. But I recently discovered that Mother Gaia, planet Earth, and humanity are both ascending at the same time. We are also going through the biggest jump from 3D to 5D, but we are also, for the very first time ever, going through the ascension process while still in physical form, which is why this is so important, because that's never been done before.
Yes, exactly.
So it's just this, people say this is an exciting time to be alive, but I don't think they really understand the depth of what that means.
Yes.
And we all chose to be here for this.
To be experienced. So it's like, it will be experienced. And yes.
It's truly amazing and fascinating, like how everything is transpiring, and the light workers, and the changes, like you can feel it in the air, like the shifts, the Schumann resonance, like all the things. It's just, I don't know, it's just fascinating. And I'm truly grateful, even though sometimes things are tough and my life has been rough. And like you said earlier, like you have to focus on how that things are happening for you and not to you, right? Yeah. Everything's a learning experience, but the way things are transpiring, like despite that tough life that I've made for myself, I am so grateful to be here for all of this. Like this is truly fascinating and amazing and just wonderful.
Yes. It's really, there's a lot of beings here with connection to these star origins, and knowing how supported we are in this process, and that a lot of us have done this in other space-time dimensions, other types of experiences, other past lifetimes and other forms, to help civilizations and planets evolve and ascend. And a lot of us are here for this very purpose, to help people understand this process and knowing how supported it is. And the way I like to invite people to think of it is, it's not like there's any location, physicality that's different than us. Like these planes and dimensions aren't another location. It's more like an extension of it, layers. Like if you think of the fabric of existence, just like a fabric in a blanket, there's all these threads, and that thread makes up that whole entire blanket.
Right.
So if you stacked multiple blankets on top of each other, but then it's one blanket with many layers. See, like that's how I'm experiencing and feeling the way we're moving through life. We like to think linear, like past, present, future, or like out there, here. A lot of people even think like, oh, my higher soul's outside me, I have to attain it. Like, no, it's within you. Like these other realms aren't outside of us. We actually go inside of us, because if you think of the plasma, like that water, the blood, the plasma in our blood, and the plasma energy outside of us, how we're the firmament with the waters divided. It's like we come through the womb, birthed from waters. Even the air we breathe is water. Water's living and conscious and has memory. And so everything, how conducive water is to electricity. When you speak to that consciousness and this etheric field around us, these planes of existence, just thinking of it as a ripple, like you're one drop in that ocean, and all you have to do is just feel into the rest of the field. We're not separate of it. We're an extension of it. And when we dive into that in ourselves, it makes it easier to connect to that.
Right. And it's all about matching your vibration, right? Because like I said, the aliens, the UFOs, whatever you want to call them, that are all around the planet, the only reason why we can't see them is because they are just vibrating at a different frequency than we are. And as we ascend and as we raise our vibration and we do the work and we start to match that, then we will start to be able to see them. Because that's why everyone's like, oh, like my dad, he's obsessed with this whole alien thing. He's like, I want to see a UFO. Why haven't they introduced themselves yet if they've been here forever? And I'm like, because you have to match that vibration. Like if you don't, then it's obviously going to be a very, I've heard some of the CIA unclassified stories and the whistleblowers talking about their interactions. It would be very detrimental for us. So we have to do the work to raise our vibration to get to the point where we can see them, and then you'll be able to see them all over the place. And that's why open contact hasn't happened yet. Is they want to introduce themselves. They've been here for decades. It's just that we weren't ready. And I think the fact that we're starting to get there, personally, I think it's very exciting. I found out that I was actually taken by the Greys when I was like 7, and they implanted a false memory in my brain. I had so many irrational fears as a child. It was crazy. I was buried alive in a past life, and I remember telling my mom when I was like 4, 5 that I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to die, because I was having reoccurring dreams about being buried alive. And my dad lived in like a 12-story apartment, and I had these irrational fears of someone crawling through the window and taking me away. But that was where the Greys took me, and they implanted this false memory of a person coming through. And it was like very spider-like. It was very creepy. But that's not, obviously it's 12 stories. Like, that's not going to happen unless it's Spider-Man or something. But, but it's interesting how all these things kind of like play out, and I don't know. It's just, everything is just so fascinating to me.
It really is. And it's exactly right when you're speaking about frequency, because that's what sets the tone and the speed of the vibration. And when you elevate and raise the vibration, it speeds it up in frequency. So if you think of like those videos where it shows a car like going fast, and the faster you speed up the car, eventually like blip it, like it disappears from the screen and you don't see it, but it's just, it's moving so fast, your mind isn't having time to process that.
Right, exactly.
But as we're raising to match that frequency and vibration, and our eyes and rods and cones are tuning to be able to process that, and then our human body is going through these awakening stages so that it's preparation, so that we're not freaked out when we start to see it, you know, and when you do get to that vibration and frequency, we will be able to see more. And I think there's moments and different spaces, locations that these things happen where we're able to do that. And sometimes also it may look like somebody like you or I, you know, like what's possible, I think, is out of the realm of the current human to really be able to fully conceptualize because of kind of just how fascinating and magical that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And my partner, his guides actually gave a really good analogy where you imagine a rope traveling at 60 miles an hour, right? And you grab onto that rope. You're going to get rope burn. It's going to cause damage, right? But if you start traveling at 60 miles an hour along with the rope and you grab onto it, well, then you're just holding on to it because you're both traveling at the same speed. It's the same thing. Like you have to be at the same vibration in order for there not to be, you know, a detrimental consequence for it or to even be able to do it, you know what I mean, without losing your arm or whatever.
Right. Yes. Yeah, it's a beautiful analogy. Makes absolute sense.
I also really like your ocean analogy about going diving in deep and having to come. I might steal that from you. I'm just going to let you know. That was a really beautiful analogy. So, what you've mentioned, again, you mentioned all those things that you're doing. What are you working on right now? What are you doing for your day-to-day? Like, what are you bringing to the world?
So right now, I have been doing private sessions in small groups, both online and in person as I've been traveling and moving around throughout the years. But I've recently been guided to kind of shift directions, and I'm still going to be offering those things. But right now, I'm working on doing more leadership and speaking and getting some more publishings out there. And I have an upcoming event for emotional intelligence, the everyday magic of inner alchemy. Nice. It's a 3-day course, 3 hours total. So it's a 9-hour course for $77. And we go over all kinds of things for regulating your emotions, processing the emotions, alchemizing that, the way we communicate with ourselves and others, how to stay calm under pressure, have more inner peace, and have more fun processing the emotions. So I'm really looking forward to that. And later in the spring, there'll be a retreat that I'll be creating with my friend in Egypt. But we're probably going to start our first one in Turkey, we're thinking, but definitely we'll be hosting events in Egypt and other locations as well. And lots of other projects in the work, but I'm really excited to work with people. Love doing collaborations and events, co-authorships, things like that. So I'm open to, you know, private sessions with people. I do empowerment coaching and again, a little bit of everything. So with the Reiki and the theta healing, singing and sound toning, light language, aura reading, like channeling, like you name it, it's kind of all available there in that space. I teach chakra energy belly dance for kind of somatic healing of moving that energy through the body and empowering and speaking affirmations at the same time. So I even do those virtual and in person as well. So got a lot of exciting things going on. It can be, you can find it at humanmeetsbeing.com. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to creating more content on YouTube as well.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I think especially now, like I said earlier, with all the things that are happening, that emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, like I think that's really important. And I hope you have so much success with that. I hope people actually take advantage of that because it is very important right now. I think we could totally use that. Yeah, that's a great,
and it'll
great
be
thing.
on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of November from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's also offered in Egypt as well. And we'll have a translator. So we're bringing, you know, Egypt and America together to create this emotional intelligence healing collaboration for everyone. But you don't have to be in just Egypt or America to join. Like anyone that's listening can join, and you can find that link to do your sign up on my website as well.
Awesome. That's amazing. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I can't wait to hopefully do some more collaborations with you in the future.
Definitely. I look forward to it. Well, this has been so great. I could talk about this for hours.
I know, me too. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you as well.